very special guest for everybody. I have Quincy Carrier, who covers the Browns here on YouTube. Quincy, introduce yourself. Let everybody know what you do and where they can find you.
Hey, what's up, guys? My name is Quincy Carrier. I do NFL content, but mainly Browns-focused content. Been talking a lot about this matchup with the Indianapolis Colts this week because it's a huge matchup. It's going to be a fun game this weekend. You can find me on YouTube at youtube.com/Quincy Carrier, or just put in your search bar Quincy Carrier. It's all that at the bottom of the screen there. You see that? Just put that in your search bar. You'll find me. You'll see a picture of my face when you search for that. Or you can follow me on Twitter at Quincy. Either one's fine with me, but check me out if you like what I do here. But yeah, I'm excited to get into this, talk this game, man. There's a lot to talk about.
Oh, absolutely. A ton to talk about. Colts fans may not actually know much about the Browns right now. They're probably used to the whole up and down situation that the Browns have seen over the last couple years and really hasn't paid a whole lot of attention to what the Browns actually are like so far. How's the season gone thus far with the Browns?
You know, we were worried that it was going to be up and down at the start because they had that game against Baltimore. They didn't come out in what I saw because the Browns live streamed all their practices for the entire length of them. So they were very open, much more open than a lot of the NFL teams. So I was able to watch them during camp. And when they came out week one against Baltimore, they weren't running any of the stuff that they did in camp. What they did in camp is the stuff that you've seen the last 3 weeks. So they got blown out in Baltimore. We were worried about what that was going to look like. They come out against Cincinnati. They play well. Then they go at home against Washington. They play well. Same thing with the Dallas Cowboys. They came out. They played well. They went up by like 20-something points. And, you know, it's been a lot more consistent. The hope is with Kevin Stefanski, that's what he's going to bring. He's going to bring some consistency. With Freddie Kitchens last year, his team was wildly up and down. One week you're beating the Baltimore Ravens in Baltimore, which nobody else did that year. And then you're losing, to lesser teams, like almost you're losing to, you're losing on national TV to San Francisco, getting blown out, just getting completely embarrassed. So the team was completely up and down last year. This year, there's more hope, and there has been more consistency with the team through this early part. We don't know how that's going to be for the whole season, but through 4 weeks, it looks like they're a lot more consistent than they were last year.
See, I looked at the Browns and the games that they had, and it kind of resembles what the Colts and Colts fans are probably going through. They start off the season. I don't even count week one. I look at that as a preseason game, right? Mm-hmm. Because they didn't get any preseason game. They didn't get any kind of real traction early on. They only had a few weeks of practice beforehand. So really that was their get to know ourselves game week one. So the Colts lose to the Jacksonville Jaguars, which was like, what? And then the Browns, of course, came out incredibly flat against the Ravens. Mm-hmm. Now, afterwards, the Colts played some teams that were questionable, right? Like the Jets and Minnesota Vikings and now the Bears, even though they were undefeated, there's question marks about them. And then the teams that the Browns played. Are you also feeling where maybe you're not getting respect because of the teams that you played and how you played them?
Yeah, that's going to be the great thing about this week. Nobody can say nothing about whoever wins this game. If the Browns win this game with that offense that they have had the last 3 weeks, nobody can say it wasn't against a good defense. And if the Colts are able to stop this Browns offense, nobody can say they did it against bums. So this is a kind of put up or shut up, prove it or lose it kind of week for both teams. I expect this to be a really close game because I think both teams are what their records indicate that they are. Really, really good teams. This Colts defense, especially the coverage defense, has been spectacular. You guys are putting up ridiculously good numbers there. I mean, I believe I looked it up yesterday. They've only given up what accounts to about 159 yards per game through the air, 5 touchdowns, 7 interceptions. Mm-hmm. That's dominant. I don't care who you did it against. That's dominating numbers there. So I think both teams should feel good about themselves, and both teams shouldn't think it's the end of the world if they lose this week. But whoever wins this game here is going to be able to shrug off a lot of those, well, it's only, narratives that a lot of people want to throw around because these teams weren't necessarily world beaters last year.
All right. So, we can thank the Browns, by the way, anyone who's watching this, for part of that secondary because PJ Carey came over and I don't know how well he played, how you felt he played with the Browns, but he's came over to the Colts and already has a few interceptions, a pick six, has got a few passes defense. He's played outstanding in the system that he's in currently. How was he with the Browns?
Yeah, TJ Carrier was always an interesting guy, right? Because last year, when the Browns ran a lot of zone, he was a very helpful piece off the bench. But he was here in previous years where he had to run a lot of man, and sometimes he can get exposed in man because he's just not he's not a especially fast corner or a quick twitch corner, but he's a very smart corner. That's what he does really well. So I think what the Colts are doing, if they're putting him in position to not have to make the quick twitch plays, but just be able to look over top and make the plays there. And TJ Carrier can definitely do that. I'm surprised he's been a top 10 defensive back. He was a backup last year firmly for the Browns behind Terrence Mitchell, Greedy Williams, and Denzel Ward, which aren't bad defensive backs to be behind. But yeah, it's surprising that he's been at that level, but he's a very good veteran. You know, he reminds me a lot of a defensive back version of what Demario Davis was a couple years ago before he became the best linebacker in football. Just a really solid, dependable vet who is going to be able to make the smart plays if you put him in the right position.
All right, I want to let everyone know that's watching live right now with your drop. We're going to do this a little bit differently, being that this is going to be a premiere on Spotify. We're going to get to the live chat at the end. That way we can get through our bulletin points that we have to get through this game. Injury report. Is there any injuries that you would like to speak about that the Browns have announced that you're a little worried about going into this game that could have an effect?
Oh, yeah, definitely. I think the Browns are going to need as healthy of a defensive line as they can get. Larry Ogunjobi, our best interior. Well, not best, because we also have Sheldon Richardson. He's really good there, too. But our best run interior stuffer on that line, he's out. So he's not going to be available. That's a big blow to them. They're also have Adrian Claiborne, our second best pass rusher. Him and Olivier Vernon have kind of been tied. Olivier Vernon has been very disappointing for the last 2 years. So he's questionable. Hopefully he can play because I think you need this defensive line to be as healthy as possible, because the hope is for the Browns is to be able to maintain a pass rush with just your front four, because once we get more people involved in blitz, that's where you get in trouble with the lack of area your safeties can cover.
All right, so the Indianapolis Colts, we have a couple people, big names that are out, and it's scary because our left tackle, Anthony Costanzo, has just been ruled out of the game due to a rib injury that he suffered against the Bears. That's scary because that means our backup, LaRaven Clark, this will be the first game in 20-some games that the starting five offensive linemen have not started together. So this is a huge deal because our backup, LaRaven Clark, now is going to be going up against right now Defensive Player of the Year candidate. I mean, what? You know, I don't like that idea whatsoever because Garrett's been playing out of his mind. And then on the opposite side, Darius Leonard, who had a groin injury that he suffered in the second half of the Bears game, is now also ruled out. So that's two stud players that the Colts are losing going into this game. How confident are you with having Myles Garrett out there rushing Phillip Rivers, who obviously does not move well in the pocket, going up against a backup tackle?
Yeah, that's going to be interesting to see how the Colts respond to that. Like, how many tight ends are they going to put on the line to chip them? Because they got to do something at that point with Myles Garrett. I don't think they're going to go in there brazenly and just leave Myles Garrett one-on-one with a backup left tackle. That would not be a smart decision. I would welcome it, but I don't think I don't think you guys have a bad coaching staff, and that's what a bad coaching staff would do. So yeah, it's going to be interesting to see what the solutions are. This is where the depth for the Browns might become an issue. If Larry Ogunjobi's there, that means he's going to be getting a one-on-one, but he's not there. Now it's going to be his backup that's going to be getting that one-on-one. Can that guy win on that one-on-one set? I was confident Larry Ogunjobi could. I don't know if Jordan Elliott is going to be able to do that same thing. And also, Adrian Claiborne needs to be healthy because I'm more confident in his ability to win if they have to put three heads, which has happened. Baltimore did it, put three heads on Myles Garrett to kind of eliminate him. Is Adrian Claiborne going to be able to win that battle, or Olivier Vernon going to be able to win that battle? I'm more confident in Adrian Claiborne than Olivier Vernon to do that. But yeah, that's going to be something they have to worry about if Myles Garrett, Myles Garrett's a problem when you have your starting left tackle. Not having your starting left tackle and no Myles Garrett is there too. I think the bigger injury, though, for the Colts, is crazy as this sounds, in my opinion, is going to be Darius Leonard, because Darius Leonard, I think he is a big part on what the Colts were going to be able to do to try to stop this run game. And I think the Colts' ability to stop this run is where this game is going to be decided, in my opinion. And Darius Leonard, if the offensive line wins that battle against the defensive line, he can make up for some of that because he's so good at plugging some of these gaps and stopping it. He's very athletic. He's also somebody who could take away a lot of play action because he's so disciplined. Now that he's not going to be there, that opens up a lot of the Browns playbook. And that's going to be something to be interesting to see how that goes. I don't know what your depth is like at linebacker, but it's hard to think that you got somebody as good as Darius Leonard on the bench there, because Darius Leonard's one of the best linebackers in football.
We do have a guy that we picked up last year, Bobby Okereke.
Okereke,
yeah.
That's a Pat McAfee guy, right?
yeah, Pat McAfee, future Hall of Famer. Bobby Okereke. No, he's built very similar. He just had thumb surgery, though, also this week, but he's cleared to play. And then Anthony Walker Jr. Those we have a solid linebacking core. They're all very fast. Now, obviously, Leonard is a special player. You're not going to replace, you're not going to fill his shoes, but you could end up helping him a little bit, maybe with a little bit of safety help, occasionally dropping a strong safety or something down just to help plug a hole if you can't quite get to that general vicinity where you think maybe the run might be going. Team identity. Now, with the Browns, I had a very hard time last year trying to figure out what their identity on offense was, okay? There was so many stars, and yet it seemed like you just didn't know what they were going to be doing from one game to another and whether or not it was going to be successful or not. This year, you're looking at, you go, wow, they got Jarvis Landry, they got Njoku, they got Odell Beckham and Baker throwing the football. But the fact of the matter is, Chubb in that running game has been dominant all season. What is their offensive identity through the first quarter of the 2020 season?
Well, it's definitely the run game, and you bring up an excellent point, because I think part of the reason the Browns were so bad last year and so disappointing last year under Freddie Kitchens, who's not here anymore, is because he could not figure out what the identity is on this team. We've always known, as long as we had Nick Chubb, he's probably the best offensive player on the team. And that's saying something given what the Browns have on that offense. So Browns fans have known internally since about 2018, the second half of 2018, Nick Chubb should be, a main focus on this team or on this offense. But Freddie Kitchens loved Baker Mayfield to death. I think he loved him a little bit too much. He wanted to make this Baker's team, and that didn't pan out. Baker's not there in his development yet to where he can just carry the team. He's good in spots, but he's just not there yet. He's like a young Big Ben in that respect, where Big Ben kind of you had to just help Big Ben along early on before he became, 7 is what 7 does, as Mike Tomlin likes to say over there. So yeah, it's definitely running the ball. That's where the Browns' strength is. Their offensive line is one of the best units in football. Their interior offensive line, they have the second best when it comes to PFF grades, so take them with a grain of salt. The second highest graded center in football, the highest graded guard in football in Wyatt Teller, and the 9th highest rated guard in football as well with Joe Bitonio. So 3 top 10 offensive linemen in that interior of that offensive line. Not a lot of teams have that. That's almost like Cowboys back in the day level of offensive line power that they have there. And it shows against, ironically, the Dallas Cowboys last week, where if you watch the tape on that, they are just pushing dudes out the way to the point to where Dearness Johnson, former AAF dude from Orlando, the Orlando Apollos, played under Steve Spurrier, able to get in there, 13 attempts for 95 yards, running pretty easy there. So even without Chubb, who's going to be out this week, he's injured, you got Kareem Hunt, who would be the number 1 running back on every other team in the NFL, and you have the depth there. So yeah, that's definitely the strength. That's the identity of this team. Everything comes off of that run game, and that's what it's going to come down to this week. This is the toughest test this run game has faced in Indy, and it's going to remain that tough test. And if the Browns can pass it, that's going to mean great things for the future. But if they can't, then they have to adapt.
Well, it's funny you bring up the PFF grades for your offensive linemen, because did you realize that the Colts defensive line is rated number 1 by
sir.
PFF? So
yes,
that's
sir.
going to be a very big match. That'll come up later in our conversation. You bring up Kareem Hunt. He was listed on the injury report with a groin injury, and as a running back with a groin injury, that seems like a bit of an issue with how he runs the football with his elusiveness. I've seen that.
Yeah, now keep in mind, he had that same groin injury listed going against Dallas. He looked fine going against them. So this is a week removed from that. He should be much better. I think they know they only have the one superstar running back left. They lost the other one for a few weeks. So they got to take it easy with this guy. He doesn't need a lot of practice. This is a guy who came in after being suspended for half the season and performed very well. So he should be fine there. I think he should probably be ready to see more snaps. And if he can, that would be very helpful for the Browns.
Now, obviously, we talked about the offensive line and the running game being a strength of the Browns. Defensively, what would be the biggest strength that the Browns have coming into this game?
Yeah, definitely. It definitely starts with that offensive line. It definitely starts with the interior on the inside. I think everything surrounding that play action run game is the absolute strength of that team. Baker Mayfield, one of the things he does the best as a young quarterback is he really sells these play actions. I know it sounds like a goofy thing to get excited about, but like the way he can sell these play actions really does just add to the lethality of this. We have very good blocking tight ends, also good receiving tight ends. They're versatile, and we have good blocking wide receivers. The thing that I don't think a lot of people guess about Jarvis. Well, I think people know this about Jarvis, but the thing I don't think people know about Odell's one of the best blocking wide receivers in football. Not a lot of people would guess that because of the image that's around Odell. People think he's a diva. People think and associate that with him being soft. He is not soft. This is somebody who gets in there, gets dirty, and blocks really hard. And that sets the tone for the rest of this wide receiving group. Jarvis Landry might be the best blocking wide receiver in football right now. So everybody on every level of this on this offense can block the run really well, and when they can sell that play action fake really well. And even when they pull it and go out there, Baker Mayfield's one of the better play action quarterbacks. It's been that way. Even in 2019, it was like that when they did it. In 2018, it's like that. Baker Mayfield's just one of those guys who really fit a play action scheme very well.
How about the defense on your team?
Yeah, the strength of the defense, it's Myles Garrett, and it's whoever shows up after Myles Garrett. It's Myles Garrett, Denzel Ward, and then whoever wants to show up after that shows up. Sometimes it's Sheldon Richardson. Sometimes it's Larry Ogunjobi. It's almost never Olivier Vernon. Sometimes it's even one of the linebackers, but it's really Myles Garrett, Denzel Ward. If you watch the Cowboys game, who made the big plays? Myles Garrett, Denzel Ward. That's what the Browns have. Everything else on there, not consistent, not really great there. We're going to get to the weaknesses in a second, but defensively, it's Myles Garrett, it's Denzel Ward. Those are the two playmakers you got. And then everything else is everything else. Myles Garrett, I will say this. When he got suspended last year for that last 6 games, if you look at the splits in this defense's stats when he's on and off the field, I think that made the greatest case for MVP he could have ever had, because this team picked up 50 rush yards. They were averaging about 110 giving up a game with Myles Garrett in there. Without him, they went to like 170 or something crazy like that per game just by missing Myles Garrett. The entire support staff last year had like 11 sacks. Myles on his own had 10 in 10 games. Like, remember, he was suspended for 6 games. These dudes played 16. They couldn't really even match up the production that he was giving. So Myles Garrett definitely carries a whole part of this team on his back, and he's playing at an elite level. Denzel Ward also, you'll hear a lot about the secondary when I go to weaknesses. Denzel Ward having a very, very good year and is a shutdown corner. I would not test him if I was Phillip Rivers. I mean, if he wants to, though. That'd be good for me, but I would not test him. I would stay away from Denzel Ward's side. I think teams are going to get the memo as the season goes on.
Oh, absolutely. Well, I'm looking at the turnover ratios on here, and I'm seeing that the Browns are a leader, aren't they? in the turnover ratio. Would that be considered a strength on a defense? Would being able to get the ball back for your offense?
I'm nervous about that because I don't know how consistent that number is going to be. A lot of those turnovers came from Dwayne Haskins, and I don't know if people think highly of Dwayne Haskins in Indy. I don't think he's very good. I think he's one of the worst well, he's not even starting anymore, but he was one of the worst starting quarterbacks in the NFL. If you watch those 3 interceptions, they weren't necessarily super impressive interceptions by our defensive group. The turnovers that Myles Garrett can get as a strip sack, I don't know how many strip sacks you can expect the guy to get. He's already had 3. Like, that's a season's worth of strip sacks right there for an elite player. I don't know if you can expect him to just get a ton of those. Denzel Ward, though, he can get those interceptions if you throw it to him. It's just how often our team's going to throw it to him when the secondary is weak in other areas. So, yeah, they can get those turnovers now, but I'm wondering if teams are going to smarten up and if those turnovers aren't going to be more frequent because you're not playing Dwayne Haskins. And Myles Garrett is just not going to have a strip sack every game. Like, you can't depend on that.
All right, so you used to talk about us going up, talking about weaknesses. You've been clamoring about Denzel Ward. I was saying last year Denzel Ward was an absolute beast at cornerback. But you're saying outside of Denzel Ward, you got is that where you're leaning toward on your weaknesses on this team?
Oh, absolutely. Yeah, there's Denzel Ward. He's fine. He's really good. Terrence Mitchell, he's serviceable. He's good there. You know, if you don't have a superstar too, he'll be fine. Like, I expect him this week to be fine. You know, he's not going to be matched up on T.Y. Hilton. So he'll be fine there, you know. And Kevin Johnson is a solid slot corner. Everybody else, real questionable in coverage, and I'm specifically talking about the safeties. Sadejo and Carl Joseph. I don't think Carl Joseph is bad, but I think he's just too slow to be paired up with Andrew Sadejo because they just can't cover enough ground. If they have to go man with a cover 2, they can't cover that much ground. They're going to get beat on the sidelines every time because Sadejo's just slow, and so is Carl Joseph, and they don't really have a fast free safety on the roster because Grant Delpit, who does run a 4.3 legitimately, ruptured his Achilles, so we don't know if that 4.3 is ever coming back. And he definitely ain't playing this year. He might not play for part of next year, so he's not available. That's a huge blow, and this back end of the secondary just doesn't have enough speed. Now, the one thing I'll say about that, not every team has the personnel and the weaponry to take advantage of that. That's not something that I don't like. Me personally, from what I've looked at with the Colts, I don't know if the Colts are ready to attack that. That's definitely something they're going to have to do this week. Phillip Rivers is going to have to attack deep and make these safeties cover space. But when I look at a lot of what the Colts do, it seems like a West Coast offense. It seems like a lot of screens and slants. It seems like they like to get the ball out really quick. They have a very low pocket time. So I don't know if they're going to be able to attack that weakness as much as Dallas did, because Dallas had Amari Cooper, Michael Gallup, and CeeDee Lamb just chilling in the slot. So they could go deep at will. Dak Prescott, one of the best deep ball quarterbacks in the NFL. So that was an issue in the second half of that game when they had the blitz and the safeties had to cover more space. I don't know if that's going to be an issue this week for them, but if it is, it's a massive issue. It's the biggest hole on this team is the secondary. The linebackers are kind of weak, but they've been playing much better the last few weeks. It's really the safety play that's been atrocious. And if you can get those safeties to get out there and have to cover space, you're going to score a lot of points on the Browns.
See, one of the strengths, I think, of the Colts, weakness-wise, yes, we've gotten hurt at wide receiver. Paris Campbell went down week 1, and then week 2, Michael Pittman Jr., our rookie, goes down. Both are expected to come back this year with hopes. But obviously not for this game. During that span, though, also Trey Burton, the tight end, was out on IR. He came back last week. Jack Doyle was hurt with, I think, a hamstring or something. He came back last week. And Mo Alley Cox had a breakout couple games at tight end. So we've got 3 great tight ends, especially 2 that can really block. So you're seeing them out there on the field. The Colts run a lot of 3 tight end formations last week against the Bears. Now, the Bears got a great pass rush offense or defense. So, you kind of expect that, thinking, a little bit of extra help. But they make no mistake. All 3 of these guys are weapons in the passing game. And would the Browns use safeties or linebackers to try to cover these guys?
That's been a big question, to be honest with you. The linebackers early on just weren't good enough. Now Malcolm Smith's been playing well there. They got Mac Wilson back, who's a little bit more athletic. Doesn't have great instincts, but he's a lot more athletic, can play in coverage there, and is big enough. They traded for Ronnie Harrison to do this, but Ronnie Harrison just hasn't seen the field that much in Cleveland. I don't know how much that has to do with him not knowing the defense yet. It seems like they're going to play him a lot this week because Carl Joseph has missed some practice. So we'll see what happens there. But yeah, it's going to be an issue. Again, the middle of the field, I saw Phillip Rivers' chart. He likes to attack short, shallow, middle, both horizontal and vertically. He's going to be able to have that. That's going to be there for him if this defense plays like they did the last 3 and 4 weeks. That's all going to be open for him. So yeah, those tight ends, I would expect them to have some decent days here because I don't know if the Browns necessarily have a great answer for the tight end position at all. And if you guys have 3, and I imagine you're going to run out a lot of 12 personnel because Myles Garrett, backup tackle, that makes sense. That makes a lot of sense. You want to get a lot of chip blocks on Myles. So I'm expecting that all the way. So yeah, that all makes sense. And that should be fairly productive for you guys. I will say, though, the Browns have been getting better in that area. And I'd rather have that area of this defense be under attack than the secondary, which has shown no improvement, actually gotten worse as the season's gone on in the back end, the safeties.
Okay. All right. So we're coming pretty close to the end of this, and we're going to talk about matchups to watch, not just positional matchups, but personal matchups. What is your top positional matchup to watch in this game?
Are you talking like position group to position group or player to player?
Position group. Yes.
I think this game is going to be one for either Indy or Cleveland when Cleveland has the ball and the battle behind in that line of scrimmage, right? The Browns offensive line, this Indy defensive line, 2 top 5 units unilaterally in the NFL going against each other. DeForest Buckner, I think best interior defensive lineman in football right now. He's played at that level. He's been that good for the Colts. Can the Browns, who have the best interior offensive line in football, be able to handle him one-on-one? Like, is that going to be something they're going to be able to do? Or is the combination of Joe Bitonio and J.C. Tretter going to be able to take care of him? And are they going to be able to get to the second level to take care of these good, fast linebackers and open up these rush lanes? If the Browns can do that, this game is won for the Browns. But very same. If the Colts can penetrate and disrupt that offensive line and get the Browns consistently behind the sticks and make Baker Mayfield throw 35, 40 pass attempts against this number 1 coverage unit that the Colts have, that is a recipe for success for them because they're going to get some turnovers. They're going to get some short fields for that offense, and they're going to be able to score more points and put the Browns in bad situations. So for the Colts, you want to get the Browns behind the sticks. That all starts at the defensive line with that battle with the offensive line. And for the Browns, you need to be able to run the ball. You need to be able to get your offense going, and you need to be able to get the engine started. And that starts by winning that battle. So whoever wins that battle when the Browns have the ball probably will win the game if either team decides not to beat themselves. Now, I know the Colts technically lead the league in defensive penalties accepted against them. I don't know if it's been a massive problem for you guys. I've not watched every game, but that's just something I saw on paper. I don't know if that's been an issue. But for the Browns, beating ourselves has kind of been in our DNA for a while. So if those things don't happen, this is just a regular football game. That's where that game's going to be won 100% in my opinion.
Yeah, I don't ever see a problem with that really too much, but I completely agree with you on that's the positional matchup that I would want to see. It's not just once you get penetration against an offensive line, you create you reroute the running back, right? And that right there, that gets any running back out of their space. And then if you got guys on the edge that can keep contained, it's a recipe for success every single time. And then plus, if they're running play action because of their run game and you're getting that penetration, that's a recipe for success against Baker Mayfield, period. Yeah. I mean,
and nothing kills play action more than interior pressure. Like if DeForest Buckner can get through, that's it for play action. You can't run it because you're not going to be able to get the throw off if the interior lineman can get pressure. So there's no better remedy for a play action offense than an interior defensive lineman who can get pressure. And if that's the case, Browns are in trouble. But if they can move this ball, if they can make that push, Colts are in trouble. It's all on that line battle.
It's all about the offensive line, defensive line battle, because quite frankly, like we say, if they could get good blocks on the interior of that offensive line for the Browns, if Hunt can actually run up the middle, these are fast, quick, light linebackers for the Colts. You could legitimately, if you got a hard-nosed running back, you could just bust right through and carry linebackers 2, 3, 4 yards, right?
Yep.
You just truck the heck out of them. We see it all the time with the fast speed. But if the linebackers are able to get penetration, you're hitting those running backs before they get the full head of steam, and that's when problems happen.
You're making me miss Nick Chubb, man.
I know, right? I was scared to death like 2 weeks ago, thinking, man, we got to face Nick Chubb. Oh, he's out? Oh, it's looking a little better for us now, you know? Yeah. But hopefully Chubb is not out too long for you guys, because quite frankly, he's fun to watch on film. All right.
Definitely
fun. Personal matchup, one-on-ones. What's one or two of those that you're looking forward to watching this Sunday?
Yeah, definitely. I think a couple on the defensive end for the Browns will be Denzel Ward on T.Y. Hilton. I imagine they're just going to see a lot of each other tomorrow. I would. Denzel Ward's probably the only guy who can really keep up with T.Y. on that thing. And the more you can have Denzel Ward on T.Y. Hilton, the less you have to worry about T.Y. being on Andrew Sadejo, which is a touchdown if that happens, quite frankly. So that's going to be a matchup to watch. Myles Garrett versus the backup tackle. You're going to want Myles to obviously win that and hopefully, be able to force some turnovers for Phillip Rivers, who's not necessarily the most turnover adverse guy ever in his career. You're hoping to kind of get those out of him, whether it be a forced interception or grab that arm outside arm and get another strip sack. You're going to want Myles Garrett to be very disruptive there on the offensive side of the ball. Who's your number one corner there? I know TJ Carey's been really good, but I don't.
No. Xavier Rhodes has been playing.
Xavier Rhodes. Yeah, Xavier Rhodes on Odell, and TJ Carey on Jarvis will be an interesting one. I think you're going to need one of your wide receivers to win a couple battles on some third and shorts here for the Browns. So if one of those guys can win, and I think Jarvis can win against TJ, it's going to be interesting because Jarvis has gone against TJ Carey a ton ever since he came to Cleveland. TJ's been on the roster here. So he has a lot of reps against him, but TJ also has those reps against Jarvis. TJ, very smart player, so he might know what Jarvis wants to do. That's going to be a battle to watch.
I won't put you up. TJ Carey came in and played for Rock Ya-Sin while Rock Ya-Sin was hurt. And we also have our nickel corner, Kenny Moore, who is an absolute stud at nickel cornerback. So we're actually really 4 deep at cornerback right now, and that's why we have some of the best lockdown coverage, even though it's not man coverage, right? It's weird. We play cover 2, right? We play this let them catch the ball in front of them and light them up as they try to catch the football kind of pass defense. And in previous years, even in the Jacksonville game, it wasn't working. Gardner Minshew was 19 of 20 completions against us. Mm-hmm. But then against like Kirk Cousins, he didn't even get like 120 some yards passing, and that's having Adam Thielen and Justin Jefferson and Jared Cook and all them guys, and the running back, not Jared Cook,
Dalvin Cook,
yes, and Kyle Rudolph and Irv Smith Jr. Right, mm-hmm. I mean, loaded offense there as well, and the Colts held them up. I think they're ranked like. If you take the Colts game out of the Vikings, I think if I remember looking at it, they would have been ranked number 7 in the NFL offense if it wasn't for the Colts game holding them to under 200 total yards. Mm-hmm. But no, so the secondary is very, very deep. It's just they don't play a whole ton of man. They play a lot of that zone defense. My personal to watch is most definitely going to be the Garrett versus LaRaven Clark matchup. Like you said, if the Colts coaching staff, Frank Wright, if he does not get a tight end out there to help him on a consistent basis, just kind of chip him back inside, so that Little Raven's able to hold his own before even if he's going out for a route or something, he's going to have a day against the Colts. It could be a record-breaking day. I was very serious. Now I've heard that Lil Raven Clark has been looking much, much better this past season in practice. But when I seen him in person in training camp last year, he looked god awful. So I'm praying he's gotten much, much better. All right, so we're going to get to the live chat questions. While we're here in the live chat, I want to say thank you everyone for watching live. And don't forget, hit that like button, hit subscribe if you're not subscribed, and go check out my guy right here. You can check him out. Get my finger over there in the proper. All right. Go check out Quincy Carrier here on YouTube. Go check him out on Twitter. Easy to find him. All you got to do is just type it in, man. And he pops up. He's got a 1.5 million videos. Great stuff. Great information. But please share the stream, hit the like button, and subscribe. Now, we're going in here and let's see. Oh, look at that. Joe's in the chat as well. He says, "Don't let me down, Colts." That's funny. Let's get through the stuff here. Pierre Desir allowed a Jerry Judy Moss. Oh, that was way back in the day. Okay, so Faze want to know if Bobby Okereke is out. No, he's not out. He is perfectly fine. He'll be playing with that thumb, but he'll probably, I don't know if it's going to be a club though. So that's going to be a massive question mark. If our starting will linebacker has a club on his hand, that does not spell good against this Browns running attack at all. At all. I would not want that to happen. Let's see what else we got here. Brian says that LaRaven Clark has looked better in practice, so hopefully we see a surprise. Who is the other guy beside Ogun Joby that is out? Alpha Wolf wants to know.
It's Ogun Joby and it's Greedy Williams.
Ooh, ow. That
who has not played all year. So
okay, yeah. All right. Well, like I said, I haven't really paid a whole lot of attention to Browns games. No offense. It's just I'm paying a lot of attention to my own
many
division.
Hours in the day.
Yeah, exactly. They're just basically talking in the chat. I don't see a whole ton of questions. That's weird. Could this game come down to a possible wild card spot and or a preview to a playoff game? Jason David asks.
Yeah, most definitely. I think so. This could be a preview. The Browns have a really tall task ahead of them with Baltimore being at the top of that division. I personally think Baltimore is going to win that division by 2 games, no matter how good the Browns are. I think Baltimore is just really good, and they're a really good regular season team. So they're going to bounce back from that Chiefs game. They already did against Washington. With the Colts should make the wild card at the very least. I think they're going to contend for that division because it's the AFC South. The Texans don't look like they're going to be competing for it. We don't know if the Titans are going to play another game this season. And, other than that, it's kind of wide open there for you guys. So I don't see any reason why you guys can't compete with it. I don't think Jacksonville is going to be threatening that division anytime soon either. So this could be a playoff matchup. You guys have a better angle to the division than the Browns do. So it might be one of those first round, 3-5 matchups or something like that. All
right. Brian also asks, what is up with this moving mobile Browns offense, the trick plays and stuff? And how do you feel it may affect the Colts D, or do you think that they'll even use that?
Yeah, I don't think they're going to do as many trick plays and and end around fakes against the Colts as they did against Dallas. Dallas has a very undisciplined, especially Jalen Smith, very undisciplined linebackers, young linebackers with poor instincts. So that stuff was going to work against Dallas. And to Dallas's credit, on the play action boots, when they passed it, they were fine. It's just when the Browns decided to run it with some of those, they were not fine. So that I don't think they're going to do that. I have not seen you guys get beat a lot on play action this year. When I've watched you, I watched you guys against Minnesota. I watched you guys last week. Two offenses that run a fair bit of play action. Doesn't seem like, your linebackers are really going to be out of place there. It seems like you got a really disciplined group. So if I'm the Browns, I would cut all that and just pound it. I think when I was watching the Bears game, one of the things I was screaming was I think the Bears tried to do too much to try to get that run game going instead of just deciding to run it just straight at you guys. And when they ran it straight at you guys, they had a little bit of success there. Mm-hmm. You guys made the adjustment on them. But I think that's the best course of action. Don't play with them. Just run at them. And that'll be your best way to have success. Just trust that you have a personnel group that can stand up. And if you do, you can run at them. But if you do all this play action and stuff, again, nothing kills all that than more than interior pressure. And you're begging for somebody to leak through if you're doing all that reversing with a guy like DeForest Buckner, who's not only very good, very long, very athletic, good base, can bend, also very smart. So I would not do it a lot. I don't think you're going to see a ton of end arounds. I think that was just for Dallas, who not that disciplined, not that great in the interior defensive line.
Question from High Octane Analysis. I'm going to give an answer real quick, but then I want your thoughts on it as well. High Octane Analysis asks, I don't think Garrett may be a big of a factor because Nelson is the left guard, and he can slide protection to that side to help LaRaven Clark. Now, I'm going to say hold off on that High Octane Analysis, okay? Because right beside Myles Garrett is this defensive tackle known as Richardson, and he is a handful, okay? And I think Nelson will have his hands full with Sheldon Richardson in this game because he is a big body and a people mover as well. What do you think about that?
Yeah, and also thing to keep in mind is that Myles Garrett doesn't really stay in one position at all during the game. He will move around everywhere. He takes some snaps from the inside. I've seen him take some snaps like middle. He'll take some snaps outside. He takes a ton of snaps from a ton of different areas. He's very versatile in that way because you want to move him around to where you think you got a good matchup because he's so fast, he can wreck the game like that. So Myles is going to move around. I don't think they're just going to keep him right there. If Quentin Nelson helping out is going to be a problem, or if the tight end help is going to be a problem, they'll probably move him so he can go up against the right guard. And that way, with the Browns not having Larry Ogunjobi, I think they're going to probably do this more, where Myles might play more inside snaps because then they can have Ogunjobi, hopefully Adrian Claiborne on the outside, not Ogunjobi, Olivier Vernon and Adrian Claiborne both on the outside with Sheldon Richardson and then Myles Garrett on the inside to take advantage of some things, especially if the run game becomes a problem there. So he's going to be versatile. They're going to be flexible with how they use Myles Garrett. I don't know if Myles is going to go off because like sometimes when you give Myles like the easy way, he doesn't like taking the easy way. He likes to kind of set guys up and play this game. He's a very cerebral guy. So I don't know. Sometimes against these newer guys, he doesn't know how to set them up because he doesn't have the tape on them. And that becomes an issue, even though sometimes you just want to like grab his shoulders like you're Myles Garrett, just run past them. You don't have to be this cerebral about it. Myles loves to get really cerebral about it, and sometimes that affects him. If you look at last year's game against Tennessee when he was going up against Dennis Kelly, a left tackle he should absolutely destroy on every snap, he was too cerebral about how he wanted to attack, and he allowed all these tight ends to catch up with him and allow him to get frustrated. So we'll see with Myles Garrett there. He's going to move around. I hope he just decides to go full blast at it instead of acting like he has to play this chess game against, like Quentin Nelson is out there at left tackle. Like that's not what he's going to have to do. I think he's just going to have to go full power.
Chris Toger asks, hey, Quincy, has Baker faced a good defensive rush this season? And if so, how's he look?
Washington has one of the better defensive lines in football. I will say that. They're very good up front. They aren't very, and they're pretty solid in the secondary as well. They aren't good anywhere else on that team, and that's why they'll probably finish 4-12, 6-10. But that defensive line, especially when they were healthy with Chase Young, Matt Ioannidis in there, with Ryan Kerrigan, and Montez Sweat, who is a monster. Montez Sweat is very good. All those guys there, that's a very good defensive line there. So that's the best pass rush he's faced. They also played the Baltimore Ravens, who aren't a great pass rush, but are a good interior defensive line team with Derek Wolfe, Brandon Williams, and what's his name? I can't believe I'm blanking on him. Brandon Williams, Derek Wolfe, and Calais Campbell. Obviously, Calais Campbell, one of the better interior defensive linemen. You guys know about him in your division. So, yeah, that he's played against some good defensive lines. Obviously, not Indianapolis or even with next week, not Pittsburgh level. This is going to be a different test here. With Baker Mayfield, the offensive line is going to have to take care of that pressure for him because it is what it is with Baker when it comes to those pressures. And I don't worry about Baker as much as I worry about the offensive line in that standpoint, because if the offensive line can't do it, then I already know what we're going to get from Baker. So it's not really a variable there. So that's why I'm not necessarily worried about the jump up being there in that defensive line. I'm more worried about this secondary with Baker Mayfield, because sometimes Baker doesn't see stuff and that can turn into turnovers.
All right. So I'm going to just bring up one last question before we move on. And I'm trying to find it again because it just went right. There it is. Jason David brings up Jonathan Taylor, the rookie running back that the Colts picked up in the second round. He is a massively strong power back with 4.3 speed. Does that worry you? Do you believe that your defense the Browns have the defense to be able to stop a Jonathan Taylor like running back?
The Browns defensive line and their linebackers, to give them credit, have been really good about stopping the run this year. It's been quite a surprise for me personally. Now, Larry Ogunjobi's not going to be there. He's a big part in that run stuff. But this is a defensive line who, did not look terrible up against this offensive rush in the Browns in practice. Like, they held their own, and that's one heck of a rush we found out to hold your own against. I don't think you're going to be able to get much on the edges with these guys. They're healthy on the edge. They're very disciplined there. The linebackers can crash down and really be physical there. Again, they played Joe Mixon, didn't have a big day with Joe Mixon. Ezekiel Elliott didn't have a big day against us. The Ravens, they didn't really have a great day on the ground against the Browns. They took advantage of the safeties. That's how they're able to put all those points up. But the ground game wasn't really going there. So the Browns have played some really good running backs and some good rushing attacks and have been able to slow that down. Everything I look at from Indy, I don't anticipate that being a problem. I feel confident about their ability to have an answer for the Colts run game.
All right. Let's move on to predictions for the game. Last bulletin point, man. Prediction. If you want to throw a score out, you can. If you don't want to, that's fine. But who do you think, as of right now, from going over everything that we've talked about, who do you think wins and why?
All right, so I don't give out like score predictions anymore because sometimes that can just get kind of contrived. But what I like to do is I like to chart out the path to winning for each team and think in my mind which team has the quicker and easier and more efficient path to take. For the Colts, it's stop the run, it's put Baker behind the sticks, it's force some interceptions, get some short fields, and score and finish, which you guys should be able to do. Right, so it's not the most difficult game plan in the world, but it is very difficult to get the Browns behind the sticks because this is one of the better offensive lines. For the Browns, the plan is move the ball on the ground, drain some clock, be able to move the ball in short yardage situations, both through the air and through the ground, and win that battle against that defensive line. If you do those things, you should win. Now, with the Browns, I tend to think they have an easier path when they're at home. Two, they have three really good interior offensive linemen, and that's gonna hopefully outnumber the amount of good interior rushers that the Colts are gonna have, or at least equal it. And if that's the case, I like the Browns' strength of that interior offensive line over the Colts' strength, even though it's a very, very strong strength. I just think these are two diamonds crashing together. I think the Browns just might have a little bit of a tougher one because they just have more diamonds to throw at you in that area. So I like the Browns to be able to do that. I think it's more likely that they're going to be able to win that battle. And again, I said whoever wins that battle is going to win this game. So I think the Browns' path to winning is just a little bit easier. I don't think the Colts offense poses the same game-breaking problems to this defense that Dallas and Baltimore did. And I think offensively, the Browns match up well on that strength-to-strength matchup to be able to win it. And if they can win that battle, I think they can take this game.
I look at this game as this is a possession game. This is a game where you want your offense, whether you're the Browns or the Colts, to have more possessions than the other team, because that's going to get – because I agree what you said earlier about I think this is going to be a close game, and the more possessions you have, the better chance you're going to have of winning. So I look at the turnover, right? I look at the turnover situation. Both teams so far this season have been very good at getting turnovers, whether it be interceptions, strip sacks, forced fumbles, things like that. The team that turns the ball over, I think, ends up losing this game. Whichever team ends up turning the ball over to the other team ends up losing this game. Occasionally, you'll see a quarterback who could throw 2 or 3 picks in a game, and somehow the team is able to lift above that and win. I don't think this is a game that can happen in at all.
Not this week.
Not this week at all. I think definitely it's going to be all about ball control and keeping the other team from having the ball as much. So, hey, Quincy, I really appreciate you being here. Thank you so much. One more time for everybody listening and watching. Tell everybody what's going on in your life and where they can find you.
Yeah, man, you can find me on youtube.com/Quincy Carrier. If you like what I do here, if you like the level of analysis I bring, please feel free to subscribe, click that notification bell. I know I do Browns mostly, but hey, you can learn a lot about, other NFL teams and enrich yourself as a fan by having a greater breadth of knowledge about each team. So do that. And again, as you guys said, this might be a playoff matchup. You're going to want to keep tabs on the Browns. This team you want to keep tabs on. So hit that subscribe button, hit that notification bell so you don't miss a single thing there. Also, if you want to follow me on Twitter, at Quincy, at Quen, KWEN_C. That's where you can find me there.
All right. So once again, everybody watching live, please hit that like button and share the stream. The others might be able to follow this and come in. Mo Alley. Just want to let you know, Joe Nubo piped in at the last second, said he thinks that Mo Alley Cox is going to go off. So
Joe Nobu also thinks that Marquise Brown is an NFL wide receiver, but we'll leave that for week 15. We'll have that conversation about Tyreek Hill. Yeah, Joe, Tyreek Hill. That is what Marquise Brown is.
All right. Well, thank you so much for joining, everybody. Thank you again for watching. Please hit the follow, hit the subscribe. Check us out. If you're listening to this on Spotify, go ahead and share that out as well. Thank you. And until next time, as usual, I'm Lawrence Owen. This is Colts Law. We're breaking down this Sunday's Colts at Cleveland game. It was the preview. Hope everybody enjoys the game this Sunday. And until next time, have a good one.